Read the sentences, then listen and decide whether they are true T or false F.
The professor never felt the crocodile's teeth. The guards let go of him, and he was falling through the air. Then everything went black. When he opened his eyes, he was on a Viking ship in the icy waters off the coast of Greenland. He suddenly realized that he traveled through time only when he was close to death. But how had this time traveling started? Only his colleague knew the answer, and he was far away. The year was 986 AD, and Eric the Red, the famous Viking explorer who discovered Greenland, was leading his men on another adventure. No one noticed James. He was at the back of the boat in a corner. The other men were rowing and looking straight ahead. Eric was a big man. He had red hair, a red beard, and a red mustache. He wore a helmet on his head, like the others, with horns coming out of the sides. When he saw James sitting doing nothing, he yelled at him to take an oar and help out. Neither he nor the other Vikings took any notice of the fact that he looked completely different from them. When they reached land, he too was given a sword and a shield. Someone even put a horned helmet on his head. They were going into battle against men who had occupied a castle near the coast. Professor Kearns tried to avoid the fighting, but he had no choice. One of the enemy warriors ran at him with a sword, but he blocked it with his shield, then knocked the man to the ground. He stood over him with his sword raised, but he didn't want to kill the man. Suddenly, he heard a woman scream. Near the castle wall, a Viking was chasing a woman with long blonde hair. The Viking grabbed her by the hair and threw her to the ground. James ran towards her, picked up a club, and hit the Viking over the head. He helped the woman to her feet and looked into her bright green eyes. "Don't worry," he said. "I'm not going to hurt you." Eric had seen James knock the Viking down and sent his men to grab him and the woman and take them back to the boat. He had their hands and legs tied, and he said he was going to throw them into the icy waters as soon as they set sail. "You'll be dead before you even realize you're in the water." The woman's name was Ula. Her people had been fighting the Vikings for years, and she had been her brothers and her parents killed. She thought it was better to die than to live without them. "Don't say that," the professor said. "You have to want to live. To give up hope is like saying life was never worth living, and that simply isn't true." The greenness of Ula's eyes fascinated him. They looked sad, innocent, and beautiful at the same time. Ula was able to free one of her hands. She reached into the pocket of her dress and took out a small, round piece of wood. Carved in the center was the face of an animal. Ula explained that it was the white fox, and her people gave it to travelers before they left on a journey to bring them good luck. "You're a kind man, and I want you to have it," she said. She put it into the pocket of his jacket, and as she did so, Eric and some of the other Vikings came to take them to the boat's edge. The water was so cold they would probably die not long after they were thrown into it. The professor looked once more at Ula, then he was thrown into the water.
Look at the table, then listen and fill in the missing words.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the National Wax Museum. In this room, you'll find models of famous European explorers. If you press the button in front of each explorer, you'll hear some information about their travels.
Who's this? Shall I press the button?
Go on.
Marco Polo is the most famous explorer of the Middle Ages. He was born in Venice in 1254. He was the son of a rich merchant. In 1271, he started a 4-year journey through Asia to Peking with his father and uncle. He spent 17 years in China, working for the Mongol Emperor Kublai Khan. He finally arrived back in Venice in 1295. He wrote a book called The Travels of Marco Polo, in which he described his many strange experiences in Asia. He died at the age of 70 in 1324.
Hey, look, this one looks like Christopher Columbus.
The Italian navigator. Christopher Columbus was born in Genoa in 1451. His father was a weaver. He made 4 voyages in total. First, he sailed west hoping to reach Japan. Instead, he reached the Bahamas, a chain of islands on the east coast of North America. He also landed on Cuba and Haiti and eventually realized that these places were not Japan. In his later voyages, he explored islands in the Caribbean Sea and Central America. He died in 1506.
They had fascinating lives. Let's